Thank you. Morning, everybody. Doesn't hurt to have a few people prompt you. Welcome, everybody, today. It's exciting to have so many people join us from around the world today. My name is Darren Edgar, and I've had a career in technology and professional services in North America, Europe, as well as a few other regions around the world. My career began as an accountant in Canada, and that's how I transitioned into the ERP industry, later on the CRM technology space, and got into project management. I led systems integration businesses and consulting practices between SAP, Microsoft, Accenture, and PwC. Now I help technology businesses grow by building alliances and relationships and drive revenue through partnering and channels. Along the way, I've launched and led a few women's organizations, either women in technology or employee resource groups. And I came into the RPA space when I was at SAP, as they started combining a lot of their technology areas into their cloud platforms and offering them as enterprise offering to their clients. So I kind of came into it through a number of different areas, but mainly when I was a client and partner facing person as part of opportunities and deals and driving revenue. So my goals for today is to really help people see some opportunities that they might consider in terms of ways that they could enter the RPA space that they might not otherwise have thought of, and hopefully put themselves forward for roles more readily than they might otherwise have done.
Cool. So, hello, my name is Elisa. I am Brazilian, and I'm speaking directly from the city of São Paulo here in Brazil. I'm a project and change management professional, and I'm currently working at Natura & Co. Natura & Co is the fourth biggest cosmetic group in the world, and it is home of Natura, The Body Shop, Avon, and Aesop. And I have been leading an all-female RPA team for the last 2 years. I come from a background in consulting. I used to be a change management consultant for Accenture, where I worked for all sorts of industries and projects, but always connecting people to new situations and contexts, and such as new systems and new processes. At Natura, I had the chance to work with process improvement, compliance, KPIs, and change management at our shared service center. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and hopefully inspire the technical professionals out there to think a little bit more about their change management strategies. And also to the non-technical professionals, I would like to say that there are opportunities to work with automation for you as well.
Brilliant, thanks. Elisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Ajayi. I'm a tech lead within our AI and automation practice at PwC UK. And my automation career started 5 years ago at Accenture. So I started off as a business analyst before moving into more technical delivery roles. And now I work with multiple clients across financial services, private sector, and the public sector, advising them on all things automation, but also supporting them with shaping the roadmap and implementation across their business. So I'm really looking forward to sharing more about my unique journey, my transition from business career to a more technical career, and just how much I enjoy being a technologist, even though I don't have the background. So yeah, really, really great to be here, and looking forward to sharing my experience further.
Thank you so much, ladies. So now we've got a little bit more insight into who our panelists are and their backgrounds. I'd just like to ask you if you could talk through some of your initial thoughts on today's session. Audience, please feel free to start submitting any questions. If you would like to direct any to a particular panelist, please don't hesitate to mention them in the question box. So Darren, over to you.
Yeah, when I thought a little bit about today and about, what types of things would make somebody successful in RPA, what I think is important to remember is that RPA is evolving and changing. It's not as emerging as it was a few years ago. And as businesses in new categories change and evolve over time, you see the proportion in leadership and in significant roles change from being a higher proportion of more technical resources to a higher proportion of more business-led resources as the technology becomes more well understood by the market and as customers have a better idea what to do with it. So when you take a look at RPA, you can actually take lessons from other software products and software categories that have started, were emerging, and then became more mature. And you can think about that blend of your skills of some technical, some business. What business processes are you aware of? What is your network comprised of? Who do you know and what are their skill backgrounds? But ultimately, the more you can drive your skills towards the problem being solved for the client, the more likely you are to find your first role in RPA, but also progress once you're in that space, and also create some continuity moving into what RPA becomes or what RPA gets combined with going forward.
Well, my initial thoughts are that automation is such a broad field. And to be honest, I never thought I would end up working with automation. And today I'm going to explore a little bit more about opportunities for project and change managers, but I feel like there are opportunities for all sorts of backgrounds. In Natura, for instance, our RPA program was born at the Shared Service Center, but we had the opportunity to train other developers, RPA developers, outside the Shared Service Center. Logistics, supply, accounting, HR. So even for these process owners, there are opportunities. The RPA and developing with blueprints became a tool for them, just like an Excel spreadsheet. So there are so many opportunities out there.
Yeah, and this is a topic that I'm really, really passionate about, not just because I think it's important to I think it's important for everyone to understand the opportunities that exist. I mean, the way that I see them, but because I think we need a lot more diversity in the tech space, in intelligent automation, and diversity of thought, but more so we need more women and sort of exploring career opportunities and transitioning into different roles. So intelligent automation is not just about deploying RPA, as Darren and Elisa said. It's very much about transformation. It's looking at the way clients and organizations work, and deploying RPA alongside thinking about how they can improve their process, and also how they can change the way they work and adopt other change management levers to drive more impact. So on that basis, you need more than developers. You need people that understand how processes work and can, reimagine the possible with RPA. You need people that, understand human experience and user experience and can think about how you transform your customer journeys with RPA. And you need people that can manage a project, but more importantly, set it up and deliver it to time and budget. So there's lots and lots of opportunities in this space. And as I said, I don't have a programming background, but I've been able to do about 4 different roles in intelligent automation, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them. So I'm hoping that we'll get the opportunity to share more about this later on and answer your questions.
Great, thank you all so much. And I think, Liz, that's a great bridge for us to move over to some of the questions that we're getting input from our audience. Please do use the voting button, as that's what I am going to be going off of in terms of the most voted questions. And also just a quick apologies, as I don't know if you've seen the note, but I believe there's some audio glitches at the beginning. So apologies for that, but hopefully everything's up and running now. Okay, so one of the first questions we've got from the audience is, I'm a finance analyst and I hear that it is ripe for intelligent automation, but my firm isn't doing it. What should I do to start to learn how this will impact my role? How could I introduce it to my company? Ladies, I don't know if anyone's got any initial thoughts on that.
I'm more than happy to take that, Sophie, because finances, I'd say it's largely the area where I've worked the most. And yeah, you are right. It has a lot of potential for automation, but it's also a space where you can really prove the value of automation by automating the transactional activities across order to cash, procure to pay, or within accounting, and free up people's time to focus on month end and other critical finance activities. So my suggestion in terms of how to get involved or effectively start pioneering the discussions around automation in your company is to just invite someone who has experience, either an RPA vendor or a professional services company that can come in and talk about RPA and the art of the possible within finance, and also help your company shape the roadmap, but also importantly, advise you on how to get involved and what roles may be sort of suitable for you.
Great, thank you, Liz. Darren, I saw you're nodding away there. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, the beginning part of that question is a good place to start. A lot of times, global strategies for automation aren't necessarily shared very broadly with all roles and all levels within a financial services organization. So beginning with a little bit of exploration through various colleagues within your network within the firm to just find out a little bit more about what's being planned. Because right now, pretty much every bank in the world, every insurance company in the world has it as an imperative that automation is now. It's no longer a nice to do, it's something they have to do. So there probably is something going on that just maybe hasn't been shared in a consumable way more broadly, and they would probably welcome the questions, the support, the offer as was made, bring in a vendor for a lunch and learn. They would actually probably welcome some help with that, and it's a great way to start getting the grassroots moving in your company.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like you need to understand what's the strategy of the company and how an automation plan can be delivered inside the company, and you have to be connected to the right people, right? So inviting vendors, talking to the guys in IT, but there's definitely opportunity. I have in my team 2 girls that came from the financial area, so they know how to develop robots in that processes because they know the processes. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Great, thank you all. And I think the next question that we've got coming up will hopefully help whoever submitted that question. And that is, what are some of the top transferable skills to get into intelligent automation and RPA?
I mean, some of the skills that I've seen transfer between industry, between, when you're an employee of a business consulting at a PwC or Accenture, what have you, or at a vendor, is the ability to map a business process, the ability to listen to your client, listen to your stakeholders, translate it into a diagram or a flow in a logical way is probably fundamental. Even now, day to day, I'll be on a call with a client who is not necessarily somebody who's in the weeds of a business process, and I'll start diagramming something out or trying to fit it into a structure. And that's really what clients value a lot, is if you can make sense out of the unstructured situation that they might find themselves in. So, a bit of diagramming, a bit of business process flow mapping, that type of thing is useful, whether you're technical or business facing.
Yes, problem solving, right? Problem solving, project management, change management, process improvement. Automation is not a miracle. You need to have a good process running to know where to put where you can automate, and also a strategic thinking, because if you are organizing an automation program, you need that initiative to be connected to the company's vision, essence, and culture. So, for instance, in Natura, we did Natura cherishes diversity and inclusion and relationships, and for our program, we decided not only to have an all-female team, but we decided to involve the team from the shared service center right from the beginning, because we knew we had to be transparent with them. We didn't want to take their jobs. We wanted to take the robotic activities they were doing out of their jobs, and we wanted them to do much more. So, and it worked for us because that's our essence, that's our culture. So you need to find, in any initiative you have in your company, you need to find what clicks with the company's strategy and essence.
Makes sense.
Great, thank you so much for that. And we've actually got another poll for you that's just about to come up on the screen, which sort of relates back to that question. And we'd really love to get our audience perspective on this in terms of what skills you think are the most important to help you get started in intelligent automation. So please use the arrows to rank these in order. Perfect. So I'm just scrolling through some of the other questions. And again, something that I think follows on quite nicely from that conversation that we've just had is how does this intelligent automation map to digital transformation? And what should I be considering as a business strategy consultant?
I mean, early in my career, I went through sort of the consulting 101 training that Pricewaterhouse had most of their consultants running through. And the skills that they were really teaching in that training was how to read people, how to read people's faces, how to listen, how to ask questions, and then how to feed back what someone had said to you so you can get further clarity. And the key message there is don't stop asking questions, because you need to get a level of depth that means you can propose the right solution or diagnose the situation accurately. So if I think about, what are the skills for digital transformation, it's actually those skills. The Tech City report in the UK that talked about what skills are needed for digital transformation, what they actually talked about were business analysis skills, what I call consulting skills, but the human side of it. How do you work with clients and humans to solve a problem? Some of the ones that Elisa mentioned around change management and project management, those are actually the skills that are part of the war on talent for digital transformation. The zeros and ones and the coding, as the world is moving to a low-code environment and configurable robots, we're actually configuring the coders out of a job in a way, but you'll never need to stop working with the other humans that we work with and our colleagues in different workforces. So in terms of digital transformation, if you compare that to your interests, the more you can focus on your analytical skills, your interpersonal skills, and your ability to identify what problem needs to be solved, that is really what is going to take you further, even if you're technical, even if that is sort of the area that you're working in. I don't know if the others would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to what you said, Darren, because I said earlier that intelligent automation is a powerful technology that allows you to transform as well. And for me, digital transformation could be many things. It could be transforming your front office and your customer experience, and you can deploy RPA alongside a new CRM system, or it could be transforming your back office and your operations, in which case you can deploy RPA alongside SAP, Oracle, or any other ERP system. And what it allows you to do is to connect systems together to create to digitize endpoints, but it also allows you to automate processes that span across multiple systems, and also with AI you can introduce voice, you can introduce OCR, you can introduce machine learning to digitize paper, voice, and unstructured data. So it really allows you to bridge the gaps that core system transformation does him close, and a powerful tool that allows you to drive front to back transformation. So as a business strategy consultant, I'd say alongside what Darren said, it's also good to sort of think about the wider sort of strategy, whether you are trying to transform a front office or a back office or a middle office function, and how you embed intelligent automation into the heart of that strategy and use that to sort of complement or integrate that with other core systems to drive, straight through digitization.
Yes, I totally agree. Because it's such a diversified area, I feel like it requires a multidisciplinary approach. I like to think about not only not skills that complement each other. I think if you're tech, you need to work on your communication because you need to translate the technical problems to your customer. And if you're non-tech, you need to know a little bit about the tech so you can navigate in this environment, because we're talking about people, process, and technology, and it's all together. So me, for instance, I challenged myself out of being a change management consultant because I wanted to work in different fields, and I knew that I could use the change management, I could play that card, on whatever I would work. And so I feel like you need the complementary thing. I think that's what makes a professional special and different, and that's it.
Amazing. And I think what you just said then, Elisa, about it all being about people, process, and technology is really interesting. And we've actually had a question come through for you, Elisa. You said that you lead an all-female team. Would love to hear about more about this. Much kudos. So want to talk about the structure of your team?
Okay, so we are at the Shared Service Center of Natura. That's where we have accounts payable, accounts receivable, record to report, and we realized that we needed RPA team to inside the Shared Service Center because we already knew the processes. We didn't want to hire a consulting firm to do an assessment and say, oh, put up a robot here and here. We wanted it to be something more original. So we assembled this team of women that were already working at the Shared Service Center with process improvement and in this record to report. And they had the proper analytical skills to do it. And Blue Prism was great because we could make robots with the process flows. So they're all non-technical. And we are all non-technical. And we've been together for 2 years now. They're there. So it's all working well. We have 40 robots already. And we have so much more to come because now that we became Natura & Co., we have Avon together. We have some really interesting challenges ahead regarding optimizing their processes or finding synergies and stuff. So it's a great team.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Darren, previously you spoke about sort of the visual aspect of creating automations. And I've got a question here that is relevant to that. And someone from the audience has asked, I'm a complete newbie, but I hear it is easy to do, like mapping a diagram versus coding. Is that true?
Well, if you think of, if you're trying to explain something to somebody and you're trying to influence their point of view, what do we all respond to most readily? We respond to stories and anecdotes and things that are real life or true for what we see in a situation. So having a diagram, having a story, being able to describe a day in the life or a year in the life, or even being able to describe the magnitude of a problem in real terms, all of that goes to, getting your business colleagues to go for automation or to move forward with your suggestions. There was another question in I think one of our earlier questions where we talked about, how do I get my business to go forward with automation? And the answer is basically put the problem in their terms and then highlight it with a story, a diagram, a business case. So a business case would be where you would describe in dollars, cents, pounds, euros, whatever currency you're in, the magnitude of that problem or the benefit they would have by addressing that problem. So anything you can do to make a situation real, whether it's a diagram or, you know, an interpretive dance, whatever you think you need to do for your audience, that's what changes people's minds. That's what gets them inside the religion of what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, thanks. And I guess what about on the flip side when it comes to sort of, you know, building automations and these processes itself, you know, do you think that there's still that element to it as well that would lend to people who have sort of more of a visual skill set in terms of building business logic versus having a background in hardcore development or coding? Yeah.
If you look at, you know, projects like, you know, Liz and Elisa had described, where they're significant projects and there's a lot of layers in the process and a lot of different functions involved. Usually what you're going to build, how you're going to build it, and when you're going to build it goes through a bit of a journey. So it might be diagrammed in early stages. It might be prototyped later on so you can touch it, look at it, play with it. And then you might do some sort of live scenario with actual users of the process or participants in the process. So I think the diagram part is really important in early stages when you're trying to win hearts and minds and people can't see physically what you're doing. And then as the journey towards that RPA or automation solution progresses, it's usually more about experience. Because if you can create experience for the people who are approving or participating in the piece of automation, that's what actually kicks them over to saying, yep, we have what we need and this will work for our business. So if you can combine more than one thing, that's more powerful. So a diagram and a story and an experience, you'll nail it every time. Would you guys agree, Liz, you're in your teams where you're consulting folks?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the great thing about tools like Blue Prism is that they also allow you to replicate that logic, that diagram-like representation into the RPA tool to build it, rather than having to code in the, you know, automate the process by building code. All you're doing is effectively mapping the process into the robot, which makes it really, really visual, like you said, Darren. And you know, easy for users to review, validate, and really helps the experience piece, because you're really engaging them and they can effectively see what you're building and provide feedback.
And I would also add to what Darren said that when starting, start with something simpler, start with an easier process or activity, because people get like fascinated by the word robots and they like get super excited, and sometimes they want to put a robot in a process that is a little bit more complex. So to go through this experience smoothly, you know, just go start smaller and then you go to the more challenging ones. Yeah, I don't know if you girls agree.
Yeah. Walk before you can run.
Yeah, that's very true of the experience that, you know, I have when I'm working with some of our clients at Blue Prism, and we often talk about, you know, start small, think big, scale fast. And Elisa, I think sort of what you just said really feeds into that notion. And I guess this question, Elisa, if you're happy to start off from the audience, as someone has asked, do you have a role for a communications and change manager in an intelligent automation team?
Yes, so because I have this background, I was the one in charge of the change management initiative as well. And again, it is super important to bring people together. Like we were saying, you know, transformation, digital transformation is about people. And if you don't have that approach, if you go too technical, and you might not find the proper opportunities, you might start by the wrong robots, maybe the process is not working well. And like I said, what we wanted to do was something genuine. We didn't want to hire a consulting firm to do it all. You have to know what you want and what you want to buy. So we decided change management enabled us to do that. And so people would bring the process and say, I want to do a robot here in this activity and this because it's going to help me a lot. And we said, okay, let's go for your with your choices, you know. So I'm not sure if I addressed the question properly, but
no, I think that was helpful, and hopefully whoever asked the question does as well.
Okay.
So Liz, I think, you know, you spoke before about, you know, transferring your career from more of a business analyst into sort of leading a team within PwC, within your AI and robotics department. So can you share some of the antidotes that made you go, yes, intelligent automation is for me, and this is a great career change?
That's a great question. Thanks, Sophie. I mean, when I started off in intelligent automation, it was really just you know, a business analyst role. So understanding the process and, you know, sitting with the process experts to observe them, you know, take notes, map out the process, and also get into the weeds of what they do, so the keystrokes and the clicks. So I spent over a year working on tons of processes, right? So creating documentations and just working with the developers to understand how we can apply RPA and what the robot would do, and how we redesign the process and bring the team and you know, the experts in the loop to handle exceptions and also support the robot. And I really enjoyed doing that because I love interacting with people. I love sort of getting into the details of things. I love solving problems, and you know, being a BA gave me loads of opportunities to do that. But then I got really curious about the technical delivery. I was like, oh my days, this is so exciting. I mean, you give a developer a process documentation, and sometimes in 2 to 3 days they have a prototype, and actually the client finds that more exciting than the documentation I've done. So I mean, jokes aside, I just found it really fascinating. I thought, you know what, it's actually not very technical. I don't need to have a programming background. I don't need to go study like C# or Visual Basic. I can just use the experience and knowledge that I have mapping and designing processes to build robots, and that's where the journey started really. And yeah, I did a couple of developer roles and I absolutely loved it. And I tell you what, it's you know, and now that I do a lot of team and project management, it really helps that I have the developer background, but also the process background, because I can also play a solution architect's role, so I can support my teams with spotting the right opportunities, designing them, but also shaping how we implement them, and put the client experience at the center of what we do, as Darren said. But I'd say one of the highlights for me, I'd say one of the things that has really made you know, working in this space even more exciting in the last 1 or 2 years is the work that I've been doing with clients in the public sector. Been working with a lot of local councils. We've been deploying robots to you know, process benefit applications, you know, council tax, you know, processes. And in the wake of COVID, one of the clients that I worked with had a lot of staff pressures, a lot of demand coming through from the residents, you know, and as a local council, they were at the heart of delivering on a lot of the sort of strategies that the government was coming up with around how to support, you know, low income families families or people that have been furloughed, or businesses that needed some form of grant. So being able to deploy RPA at speed to really help address those pressure points really appeals to my sense of purpose. And you can probably tell something that really enjoy doing. And I think it's just proven the case for technology, not just as a transformation tool, but a tool that can really drive impact, a tool that can really make a difference. And there's always, this is the highlight right now. Next time I'm pretty sure it's going to be something else, but there's always something exciting to work on in this space.
Yeah, I think that's a really amazing answer to the question, Liz, and I really loved what you said about using RPA and intelligent automation as a way to help you sort of address what your sense of purpose is, and how technology really can be a lever for good. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just going to check some of the other questions that have come through. So this one's highly voted through the audience. And the question is, have you taken any impactful trainings that you would recommend?
So yes, I was thinking here about what Natura cherishes, and we currently frequently have a training on the so-called nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and I think it's especially good for our Latin American culture, where we are, things are a little more emotional and grow a little more organically. So I think that was a great. Also, when working on consulting, just like Darren was saying, problem solving is super important. And yes, I don't know what you girls have.
Do you want to go first, Darren?
Yeah, just thinking about a post-COVID-19 world, I spend a lot of my time running workshops every week and sort of large group conversations and get-togethers where we have to talk about an issue or solve a problem. And, when I used to plan those when everyone could be face-to-face and there was maybe only 1 or 2 people dialing in, if you imagine a room of sort of 8 to 10 people and only 1 or 2 dialing in, all those skills that I used to use in my sleep about how you get a group to talk about a topic, flesh it out, go to a level of detail, and then bring them back to sort of a commonly held and understood resolution. There's all those best practices when everybody's sitting next to each other, but one of my experiences was a course on video presenting that I went to in the last couple months, and it was really useful because it made me think about what my audience sees when I can't really see their faces and their reactions and their expressions in the same way as I used to use all that as information when I was standing in front of people. So right now, trying to do RPA partner work and client work when it's all over video, that's been really useful because I have to try and understand what people are trying to accomplish when I can't really see them move around. I can see their facial expressions sort of, but only as much as any of us see our expressions on Zoom. So that's been quite useful. But I'd agree with Elisa around the communication skills, because ultimately we have to tell the robot what we want it to do, and all those things contribute to making that happen.
Yeah, I think to just add to that, I'll definitely recommend design thinking training. So human-centered design, agile, any training that would help you understand the concept of prototyping and rapidly bringing solutions to life. It's a great one. I recommend process improvement, lean Six Sigma training. It's always handy to know how to simplify and standardize processes, and before, alongside automating them. And as Darren said, I'd say, the softer skills are really, really important as well, because there's a lot of relationship management instead of human engagement involved. And I think that's perhaps even the most important aspect of this.
Great. Well, it's nice to know that there are lots of things that, everyone out there can do if they're wanting to prepare to make the career jump into our very exciting industry. I think this question is really helpful and useful for those who might be in hiring management positions and looking to diversify their team. And so the question is, what should I do to modify job descriptions? And I assume that's to sort of encourage female applicants into positions within intelligent automation.
I used to lead a group in the Microsoft ecosystem that was trying to attract more females into Microsoft consulting. And we wrote a bit of a practice paper around what were some of the things you could do to write a role description or a job posting. We also had a few things around how to run the recruitment process. But it all began with one thing, which is write a role description that focuses on outcome rather than specific skills. What do you want the person in the role to accomplish, rather than what are the things you want them to have, like a tick sheet of technical certifications or training sheets. Those in and of themselves don't necessarily tell you what a person is capable of or what they have actually accomplished in the past and so are likely to accomplish in the future. And then the second guideline, which is pretty common, I guess, in sort of a standard people journey, which is interview by story. Let people tell you their story of what their history and experiences have been, rather than other styles of interviewing where they kind of focus on things that are a bit more outside the person or a little bit more not really about how they would operate in the role.
Yeah, I think that's in what you said about not making job applications sort of a tick box exercise. Is sort of research shows that women won't apply for a job unless they feel as though they meet 100% of those sort of desired skills. So Darren, I think that's sort of a really excellent recommendation as to how we can encourage women to put themselves forwards and how we can actually attract a more diverse pool of talent when we are recruiting, just by making those very small changes.
To your last point, Sophie, one of the rules of thumb I use for myself, if I'm putting myself forward for a role, I'll look at, if there is a job description, I'll look at what it says, and in my mind I'll say, I'm going to go for this if I hit 30% of what's on the list. If I can picture that I have 30% of that, go for it. Because whatever experience I have in the journey for that role, I'll learn something. I'll learn something about what I need to learn, what I need to, accomplish to move forward. And so it's never a loss. There's never a downside to putting yourself forward at that level. So in the number 30% just sort of works for me in terms of thinking about, where's the trigger point? Where would I put myself forward versus not putting myself forward?
Yeah, and I guess Elisa and Liz, an interesting way to sort of turn that question slightly on its head is, if you were looking at a job description, is there anything on there that might deter you from applying? Bit of a tough question and a curve.
Yeah, and I would say that I think similar to Darren there, I tend to encourage myself to apply anyway. As long as I sort of meet the minimum requirements. But I would say if for me it's not just about the job description, it's also about the impression that I get of the company, of the role, the culture, their values, and sometimes that's just as important as the role and what it's offering. So where there's no clear articulation of the company, their vision, their priorities for that area, I'll really struggle to understand how I fit into that. I'd say that also where, you know, I can't really find examples of references to, you know, people that work there and their experiences. But I think, you know, more specifically around the job description, so obviously if I had to apply to a role and it has a load of technical sort of requirements, like 6 years Java, 6 years .NET, even though I feel like it's something that I should be able to do, I think I'll naturally be discouraged because you're I mean, yeah, you can't really sort of you can't keep up or compete with anyone who has like a stronger technical background. And I think now I've been involved in conversations internally about how we shape you know, job descriptions and how we're shaping job descriptions to not just focus on the technical skills, but also place a lot of emphasis on the softer skills and ensure that the tones we're using are just as appealing to female and you know, sort of different gender different to all candidates, basically, because they're different elements to this.
Yes, but for leaders out there who are trying to assemble a team, before going searching in the market, I would say, you know, look inside, and maybe there are some women there that you could invest a little bit on training, and they can develop, just like we assembled our team at Natura. They had it all to be developers, the analytical thinking, the process organizing, the experience, the knowledge about the processes. They knew the people. So we just invested on training, and they became our developers. As for me, if I'm looking for when I'm looking for opportunities, it's all about the company, the essence, and how it connects to me, because I'm not going to feel comfortable in a company that doesn't fit with my essence. And so and right now, being in Natura, I totally feel that connection. And I loved what Liz was saying about what she loves to do, right? Because we have to be in a place that we love, and we have to love what we do. And I think and it has to be like, it has to touch you and relate to you in a personal level. So I think that's it. Like, and look for the potential of the business, the sector, what sector you're going in, and it's more about this and less about the job description itself, or the specifics in the job description.
Great. I really like all of those messages, you know, and particularly what you're saying, Elisa, about looking for your candidates that you already have internally, who already understand the culture of your business, who already, you know, they might know the processes, they may well be process owners in the first place. And with that logical and sort of methodical or analytical skills that they might already possess, would sort of have the great backgrounds to become developers and actually automate their own processes themselves. I think we've got time just for one more question. And Elisa, I'm going to throw this your way to start, if you don't mind. Okay. And that is, what are the different types of role within the team, so within your Centre of Excellence?
Okay, so we have 2 architects. We have someone who is my focal point and works the pipeline of opportunities, and also they're all developers, right? And we used to have a control room, someone in charge of the control room. Now that's with a service provider. It's not with us anymore. And another developer who is focused on compliance. So she makes robots for internal controls. And they all have really different profiles. So like our first architect was the one that needed to say, you know, this is wrong, do it again. So, and for the control room, I needed the person super organized. And for organizing the pipeline, I needed someone who was fast, who could talk to people and understand their opportunities and come to us and discuss. So that's how we have the team assembled, and I'm leading it. It being the team perspective and also the change management initiatives. And our manager has a technical background, so he saves us when something is a little weird and some people say some words that I don't know what mean. I just go like, hey, Cam, I don't know what this word means. Help me out. So I think like we have a bit of everything over there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And hopefully that's answered their question. So unfortunately, we've run out of time to answer any more. But thank you so much for everyone who has submitted your questions through. I think it's made for a really great dialogue for today's session. And apologies to those who we couldn't answer. But please feel free to reach out to any of our panelists individually should you like to follow up with them and discuss any further. So ladies, as we come to a close, I was just wondering if there were any sort of final thoughts you would like to share or some of the themes that we've discussed today.
I think when you're thinking about transitioning your career or moving into a different area, it can feel really daunting and overwhelming. And what you need to remember is that clients are actually demanding the skills you have. You just may not be aware of it because you're not in front of them when they're demanding it. And so you need to think about what makes you famous, what makes you really special, and what are you particularly good at. And that's really what your value proposition is, not the tick box on a job description, but what you're particularly good at doing, because those are the things that are actually driving our PA businesses. Those are the skills that our PA businesses and clients need. So sometimes that's challenging to remember, but if the purpose of this group is anything, is to remind people that what you have is what the RPA sector needs. And we've sort of shown that by having such a great audience today.
So yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like you need to reflect on what's your personal mark. And if you're in a company that you feel like you fit in its essence, like we were saying, and a strategy, be bold, don't be afraid, and do something that relates to you in a personal level. Like, for instance, like, I'm a little bit of a geek. Like, I like reading sci-fi novels, sometimes about robots. I like drawing cartoons. I like telling stories. So, like, once we did a comic book as an onboarding product for this process owners that would have their activities automated. So, and the comic book was like a cartoon comic book. And our vice president of technologies, we were talking with him about change management strategy, and that we had a comic book, and he said, wow, did you pay for it? And we said, no, we did it. And he said, wow, that's really cool. Send me, I want to read it. And be bold, be confident about it. I feel sometimes women struggle being confident. Just be confident. If you feel like in a place that you're accepted, go ahead and put your ideas on the table, because automation, we need communication, we need to be creative,
Yeah, very, very wise words from Darren and Elisa there, I'd say. So I've got two final words. First one is just to encourage anyone looking to get into this space to get support, reach out to a mentor. When I started in RPA a couple of years ago, it was still sort of in its early stages. So I couldn't find a lot of sort of experienced RPA consultants that I could reach out to. But it's a different case now. There are lots and lots of people that will be happy to support you, guide your journey, share their experience, and I'm sure you find that invaluable. Second advice, final words, is to also just go for it. If you're keen to get involved, there's lots of training, sort of free training available from RPA vendors. Once you do the training, you would start to identify opportunities within your day role where you can apply automation, and you would effectively be creating an opportunity for yourself while you're waiting for other opportunities to open open up. So don't procrastinate, just go for it and get support along the way. There's lots and lots of people that are keen to advise, support, mentor and coach you.
Amazing. I think there were some really, really nice final comments there. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for joining. Darren, Liz, and Elisa, it's been a pleasure having you participate in today's session. So for our audience as well, thank you so much for joining. Please do sign up for our next session, which is based towards our APAC colleagues. But if you do sign up following the link, you will receive the recording as well. And the theme of that session is learn more about RPA, and it's on the 20th of August. So please do also take a moment to follow us on LinkedIn at Women in RPA. Join the community thread to share your feedback and thoughts on today's session. I hope you enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, depending wherever you are in the world, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.